Now the delegation of the British Virgin Islands is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank Jose Manuel for his presentation and his team's hard work in producing the comprehensive progress report on the SDGs that ICLAC has published. There's clearly much more work to be done on implementation of the 2030 agenda across our region. This, of course, applies to the Caribbean. The lack of access to data is an ongoing challenge to monitoring that implementation and measuring progress. More investment and training in data collection is required to address this problem. However, while data is extremely important and should rightly be a priority for governments and development partners, more resources must be put into enabling the very progress that we are trying to measure. That progress relates to the economic and social transformation of our societies to give our people a higher standard of living and better quality of life. In this regard, ICLAC's work on productive development policies is highly relevant and extremely important. The flagship report on development traps has already identified the key drivers for a productive transformation of Latin America and the Caribbean. In terms of productivity, science, technology, and innovation, productive coordination, and environmental sustainability and social inclusion. In the British Virgin Islands and among many other Caribbean countries, we need a much stronger focus on productive transformation to engender a real material change in the growth and development of our societies and the lives of our people. The development model of past years that relied on loans and development aid to drive growth and development is no longer viable. We must seek to make our countries more investable and prioritize investment as a key driver of growth. The 2030 agenda is not meant to simply be an exercise in measuring the progress of implementing the SDGs. To be meaningful, it must genuinely enable progress, material progress. In this regard, the British Virgin Islands wishes to engage ICLAC in a review of our own policies to identify the deficiencies that are holding back our own growth and development. We will also be working closely with the Dominican Republic, who we see as an example of a Caribbean country that has embraced productive development policies and has seen great inward investment that is transforming their economy and society. Mr. Chair, before I close, I would just like to highlight the very real problem of vulnerability of the small island developing states of the Caribbean with respect to climate change. As many of us know, the Atlantic hurricane season begins in June. However, over the past 2 days in my country, we have been experiencing torrential rains and flash flooding as though the hurricane season has already begun. Our authorities will begin assessing the damage in the days ahead. But we are sure that this extreme weather has directly impacted the public works on our roads that were being repaired and reconstructed and has caused damage to businesses and homes. Any loss or damage to public infrastructure means we will have to spend unbudgeted funds on recovery. Ironically, the monies that were used for the very public works I mentioned were funds from loans that were already taken to recover from a previous hurricane because we are not eligible for development assistance due to per capita income. This is an example of how middle-income Caribbean countries get stuck in a vicious cycle of disaster, debt, recovery that leaves little fiscal space for SDG implementation. And there appears to be no justice, none at all. There's no climate justice. The polluters are not paying, and they don't seem to be overly concerned about the climate insecurity they are causing. They have other priorities. The Caribbean will be unable to sustain the progress we are making on the SDGs if we are continually set back by natural disasters. Mr. Chairman, Latin America and the Caribbean must redouble our efforts to arrest the climate crisis at the same time that we seek to accelerate the SDGs. This is a moral question. It is a moral one. Civil society is present here with us in this room. We must continue to raise our voices until we are heard, as well as take our own steps as a community to respond to the negative impacts of climate change. I would like to thank ICLAC and the wider UN system and our friends here in Latin America for their support as we in the Caribbean continue to navigate these most difficult circumstances. I thank you.